there, welcome to Fun with Research. I'm Susan BAIER. I'm glad you joined me today. Today I want to talk about a question I get fairly frequently, which is usually phrased as, how long is this research good for? And I think the foundation of the question is really, how often do we need to repeat something like this? And that's a good question. The answer depends on quite a few different things: what you're researching, the industry that you're in, and what you're using the research for. So if you are benchmarking attitudes or perspectives or demographic shifts or those kinds of things, you want to repeat your research on a regular basis. Now, for your particular project, that could be monitoring things every week, every month, every quarter, every year. But you want to have it on a regular basis, a repeatable interval, so that you can watch trends emerge and decline across the time frame that you're doing the research. If you're doing thought leadership research and you're really using your research studies to position yourselves as an expert, I think that most folks are doing that on an annual basis. They'll have an annual study that gets repeated every year that people can look forward to, etc. And that's really the key with thought leadership. You want people watching out for your research and expecting it. And it helps if it's released on a regular schedule. It could be something quarterly or annually or whatever. But again, you want to build anticipation for it. You want people looking for it. And expecting to see it at certain times of the year. So that's important to take into account if you're doing thought leadership research. We do attitudinal segmentation research, and one of the questions that I get from clients is sort of, how long are these attitudinal segments that we found going to be in place? And that can really depend on what the attitudes are based on, what sort of topics you're exploring, the industries that you're operating in, etc. You can have some industries that are undergoing tremendous change. So, for example, when electric cars started being introduced into the automotive industry, there were big attitudinal changes that were coming across very quickly because of this new opportunity. Similarly to solar power options for homes, all of a sudden sort of that cracked open a whole new set of perspectives and attitudes that could be driving purchase decisions in that category. If your category sort of isn't changing that much over time and is fairly stable, then you might not need to repeat attitudinal research for 3 years or so. While individuals in an audience may change sort of their attitudes and maybe shift to a different attitudinal segment, we don't often see that sort of the scope of the segments themselves as they make up the whole change that dramatically over time. But as I said, it kind of depends on your industry. If you're looking at higher education right now, if you're in the middle of a global pandemic and asking about perceptions with regard to healthcare or working at home or some of those kinds of things, there can be big shifts. So you sort of need to think about what you're exploring. Your research provider should be able to give you some guidance on this so that you know how often your research is good for. In other words, when do you need to be repeating it or revisiting it? Hope that's helpful. See you next Friday on Fun with Research.